A few words, please. Mayor Antonelli, welcome.
I'm not sure whether I need this. I've got a pretty booming voice like Jim's, and I don't have the accent to go with it. So, can I?
I'll just quickly say, can you all hear me well enough? Oh, good. Look, can I first thank IRATE for holding the meeting and thank everyone for turning up. I mean, the reality is this is the most important thing to you. It's very important to you. It's very important that we hear and we listen to what you have to say. I have brought with me a number of people who some of you would know, some of you may not know. Firstly, you would know your local councillor in Kerry Silver. If I can ask Kerry to stand up. And Kerry's here to listen as well. The Planning and Development Chairperson in Councillor David Morrison is here as well. And one of our faceless bureaucrats is with us as well in Brett Davey. Now Brett's come along. We would have also had the city planner with us today as well to listen. I think it's very important that you get to know that Brett is a local as well. Brett is highly qualified at what he does. Brett is very respected in his industry. He has a very important job to do. He has to assess this application. If you've been noticing what he's been doing, he's been feverishly typing most of the comments that have been mentioned today. He's been taking down his notes. He's been probably putting his own thoughts, processes into that as well. Brett's in charge of the whole development assessment team. He has a number of very highly qualified, well respected. In fact, our planning and development team is hugely respected. And I'm just going to say that here and now, because there is a process, it's a lawful process, that must be followed. We as councillors cannot, and myself as mayor, cannot interject, over-involve ourselves in any of this to a way that we could interfere in that process. Whether it be on behalf of the developer, whether it be on behalf of the community. It must go through its lawful process.
And there is some walls to the rubbish.
No, that's because, excuse me, and I'm very happy to answer questions. But I will be very happy to answer questions. But ultimately, the first thing is it will be assessed. The other thing is the process of which has been mentioned today, it actually does work. Only a few months ago, there was an application rejected on behalf of a landfill operator who wanted to increase the height and density of their landfill operation. Now that was rejected by council. It was supported by the state government of environmental health. We rejected it on the grounds of landform. I wrote it down here somewhere. Well, basically landform, the height, and visual amenity, landform and visual amenity. So the process does work. So I'm just saying that we have to obviously go through the process. And this is where it is vitally important for you all to be involved. We've heard Janet mention previously, as well as Jim, that it's vitally important that we all put in submissions. If you have concerns, put in submissions. I understand that IRATE have got some information sheets at the back. We've brought some information sheets as well on how to compile a submission. Now I have to say this, it's not called an objection, it's called a submission, because a submission can be for or against. I just have to say that, okay? But the reality is, all of you here have some real concerns. We want to know those concerns. Obviously we've been listening to them. We have an understanding of some of them already. But we want to hear your concerns, and we've been listening very intently to what those concerns are, and we will continue to do so. It's vitally important that when it comes time for this matter to go through to the decision stage, that we are fully aware of that. Now, Janet also mentioned the fact that Ipswich does have some legacy issues, and the legacy is mining. The big holes that have been left behind has made this city attractive to landfill operators. There's no denying that. This application...
Council approves them.
No, well, ultimately, there are obviously, landfill is one of those approved processes for open cut mines. However, what I'm here to say to you is that this is the thin edge of the wedge. This is only the second application that we've received in recent times, in the last 6 or so months. There are more coming. Janet has already alluded to that. We are aware that there are more coming. We're also aware that the state is considering a waste levy. We put in a submission to the state to support that. We see that as having economic impact on the operations of these landfills and extension of it. We hope that that would slow them down, but that alone will not be. Alone will not be the silver bullet.
Andrew, can I just ask a question?
Yeah, I understand questions are being asked later, so I'll wrap up very shortly. So obviously there is a process here. When we receive the application, it does need to go off to the state, the Environmental Health Department, for them to assess the application as well. And they will assess the environmentally relevant activity component of that. I can tell you the first hurdle that the applicant has to get through is that process. If the state Environmental Health Department approves the environmentally relevant activity, it makes it even harder for us as a council, because we've only got other things like traffic impacts, amenity, landform, all those sorts of things that we can rely upon, as well as some other things as well. Now, I recognise the fact that Clean Away has been an issue. We've been regularly sending people there until they've reached a level of compliance. We are going back to Clean Away with more of our officers to check them on a regular basis. Okay? That is happening. I like you, I don't like dumps at all. And if I lived where you lived, I would be here right now as a resident expressing my concern.
You took a donation.
Okay? I understand that.
You took
So,
a donation.
I didn't take...
Excuse me, can we just leave this next until...
So obviously, the other thing I did yesterday was I wrote to the Minister requesting that they consider calling in the particular recent one that we rejected, the biorecycle application. Why? Because they've appealed it. When they appeal it, it's going to cost us as a council, you as ratepayers, about $500,000 to defend that. Regardless of whether we win it or lose it, it's going to be at least $500,000. As I said before, just remember, this is the thin edge of the wedge. There's going to be more applications. Regardless of what decision we come up with, if we reject them all, and I'm not saying that we've got a predisposition to that, because I've just said we've already rejected one. If they appeal the decision, we have to foot the bill for that appeal.
That's money.
We've asked.
Well spent on.
Oh, it could be, but also don't forget.
It is for the community.
You're right, but the other side of the coin is that we have this problem here. These former mines, regulated by the state, now holes that the government of the day made money out of, and now we have these other companies coming in wanting to utilise them. Okay? So regardless of what we decide, we're in for a long haul. So I really do hope that coming here today, you recognise that we're here for the long haul. All of us in this room. This is going to be a long battle, regardless of the outcome, a long battle. I wrote to the State Minister yesterday asking for them to call in that particular refusal and that appeal, in the hope that what will happen is that it will stop that appeal and send a clear message that the waste dumps are not wanted in proximity to these properties. So I'm not going to stand here and preempt what the decision of our assessors are. That would be wrong of me to preempt that. I have a great deal of respect for our officers who assess these applications. We get an opportunity to look at it at the end, what their assessment says. And we get an opportunity to say whether or not we agree with it. If we disagree with their decision, we will take it to council. The biorecycle one was rejected. I believe the entire council supported that. It did not need to go to council in order to make that rejected. We supported the outcome. The officers did a great job in that one, we believe. So, I guess that's pretty much it from me. The wedge, I mentioned that. The levy. Look, I think the levy is important. We've all recognised that. And I think we all recognise too that the previous levy that the state had of $30-something is clearly not sufficient to stop the waste coming in from interstate. So it has to be at least equal to the New South Wales levy. And I think that's pretty much all I need to cover off unless there's questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor.
Actually, you've just...
Still council.
Councillor and...
Mayor.
Right, he's just reminded me of something. Thank you. I googled the Department of Local Government and whatever they're called. I googled development application call in, and it brought up a page which details all of the applications that have been called in by various called in by the state government that were going to various councils. Not one of them was not approved. Every single one that was listed on that site was approved. If the council calls in the application, that does two things. It removes responsibility from the council and makes the state government the lead assessor, and it will probably be approved. Okay?
Can I just respond to that? The reality is that perhaps those ones you were looking at had already been approved by the council and had been called in, a good half of them. So the reality is when the state calls it in, they get to reassess it and says whether they agree with the council's decision or whether they don't.